Hi and welcome to Health and Beauty Base YouTube channel. This video is on what foods to avoid if you have gastroesophageal reflux disease or GERD or acid reflux. First off, what is GERD? Gastroesophageal reflux disease or GERD happens when acid from your stomach backs up into your esophagus, the tube connecting your stomach to your mouth. This digestive disorder affects the ring of muscle between your esophagus and your stomach. This ring is called the lower esophageal sphincter, LES. If you have GERD, you may get heartburn or acid indigestion. Doctors think that some people may have it because of a condition called hiatal hernia. The term gastroesophageal refers to the stomach and esophagus. Reflux means to flow back or return. Gastroesophageal reflux is when what's in your stomach backs up into your esophagus. In normal digestion, your LS opens to allow food into your stomach. Then, it closes to stop food and acidic stomach juices from flowing back into your esophagus. Gastroesophageal reflux happens when the LES is weak or relaxes when it shouldn't. This lets the stomach's contents flow up into the esophagus. The topic of this video is that certain dietary selections can worsen symptoms of gastroesophageal reflux disease. They can worsen acid reflux because certain diets, certain dietary selections can increase lower esophageal sphincter relaxation and/or delay gastric emptying. So what are some of these foods and beverages to avoid? Most of the foods and beverages we're going to talk about in this video come from this article entitled Risk Factors for Gastroesophageal Reflux Disease, the Role of Diet. The first group of foods we're going to talk about, which are best to avoid if you have GERD, are the acidic or citrus fruits. So acidic fruits can exacerbate symptoms of GERD and cause increased acid reflux. What are some examples of citrus fruits? Some of these include oranges, limes, and lemons, so very acidic. An alternative to eating citrus fruits is eating non-citrus fruits. Consumption of non-citrus juice may be better for patients with GERD. If you're going to choose between a fruit to eat, it's best to try to consume non-citrus fruits. What are some examples? Some of these include apples, melons, and pears. Again, it's best to avoid acidic or citrus fruits. It'd be better to eat non-citrus fruits, and some of these examples, like I've said earlier, include apples, melons, and pears. Another category of foods and beverages to avoid include those that contain caffeine. Caffeine can worsen symptoms of acid reflux by causing relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter. The relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter is one of the reasons why we see symptoms of GERD. Caffeine can actually increase relaxation of that sphincter, so that's why caffeine can worsen symptoms of acid reflux. Some examples include caffeinated coffee, tea, soft drinks, and energy drinks. Another category is chocolate, so both milk and dark chocolates contain caffeine and theobromine. We mentioned that before. Caffeine causes relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter, increasing acid reflux. Cocoa contains tryptophan and serotonin that can induce the release of serotonin from cells in your gastrointestinal system, which all lead to increased relaxation of the lower esophageal center. Caffeine, best to avoid because it causes relaxation of the lower soft-gel sphincter, and then also avoiding chocolate, because chocolate contains caffeine as well, and then cocoa itself can increase the levels of serotonin, which is also known to cause relaxation of the lower esophageal sphincter. Another category of foods that it's best to reduce or avoid eating are spicy foods. So spicy foods contain capsaicin. That is what causes them to be spicy. A lot of times you're going to see capsaicin in things like red chili and peppers. Capsaicin slows gastric processing. It leads to delayed gastric emptying. One of the mechanisms why we see acid reflux occurring is because of delayed gastric emptying. Some examples of foods that contain capsaicin, as we mentioned before, include red chili, peppers, and hot sauces that are often based on red chili peppers. Another category foods that's best to reduce or avoid if you have GERD include fried foods. So fried foods increase symptoms of acid reflux due to delayed gastric emptying. Gastric contents are not released as quickly from the stomach when we eat fried foods, so this increases the risk of gastric contents entering into the esophagus. Again, spicy foods best to avoid because they have capsaicin, which delays gastric hemping, and then fried foods also delay gastric emptying, both increasing the risk of gastric contents entering into the esophagus and causing acid reflux. Another category of foods that is best to reduce or avoid if you have GERD include high-fat foods. The reason is the same fatty foods exacerbate symptoms of GERD by delaying gastric emptying. These foods are more difficult to digest, so they are left in the stomach longer than other types of foods. Because of that delay, gastric emptying, they sit in the stomach, and they increase the likelihood of those gastric contents entering into the esophagus, causing acid reflux. Examples of high-fat foods include fast food and some cheeses. Another category includes processed snacks and foods. Processed foods often have high-fat content, so same reason as why it's best to avoid. High-fat foods, this high-fat content leads to delayed gastric emptying. Examples include potato chips, bacon, and ham. High-fat foods and processed snacks and foods which also have high-fat content best to avoid because they delay gastric emptying, increasing the likelihood of gastric contents entering into the esophagus, causing acid reflux or worsening symptoms of GERD. We can also see tomatoes being a cause of worsening GERD symptoms or worsening acid reflux. Tomatoes are very acidic. They contain both citric acid and malic acid, and because of this, it worsens acid reflux. So consuming tomatoes themselves, but it's also important to think about other things as well, like tomato-based sauce and pizza. Pizza contains both tomato-based sauce and cheese, which we have talked about before. Both worsen symptoms of acid reflux, so pizza is best to avoid due to this reason. Onions are also another food that can worsen symptoms of GERD, especially raw onions. So consuming raw onions can induce heartburn through its ability to relax the lower esophageal sphincter. Again, tomatoes best to avoid because they're very acidic, so you want to think about avoiding things like pizza and then onions. Especially raw onions can worsen heartburn, worsen acid reflux because they can relax the lower esophageal center. Another reason why onions are best to avoid is because they contain fermentable fiber, which can cause belching that often worsens acid reflux. The belching leads to opening of the lower esophageal sphincter, allowing gastric contents to enter into the esophagus as well. So these can all increase acid reflux symptoms because they irritate the esophagus. Now let's talk about some beverages to avoid with GERD. We talked about caffeinated beverages, but what are some other beverages that can worsen acid reflux? These include alcohol. So consuming alcoholic beverages can worsen symptoms of GERD and can lead to damage of gastric and esophageal mucosa. Examples include beer, wine, cocktails, and other beverages. Then we have carbonated beverages. This can worsen symptoms of GERD as well. The reason is because carbonated beverages can cause stomach to become distended, so it can lead to increased pressure within the stomach, leading to pressure on the lower esophageal sphincter, which can lead it to become open. So some examples of carbon beverages include sodas, soft drinks, beer, and some wines. So as you can see, some of these beverages like beer and some wines have a double effect, in that they are carbonated, which means that they can cause gastric distension, putting pressure on the lower esophageal sphincter to open inappropriately, leading to increased acid reflux. If you haven't already, please consider liking, subscribing, and clicking the notification bell to help support the channel and stay updated on future lessons. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.